I came home from the grocery store on a Tuesday afternoon and found the locks changed. There was a trash bag on the porch with some of my clothes in it, and $12 in cash sitting on top. That was it. That's what 40 years of marriage came down to. A trash bag and $12. My name is Dorothy. I'm 67, and up until that Tuesday, I thought I had a good life. Not perfect, no marriages, but solid. I lived in a 4-bedroom colonial in Columbus, Ohio. Richard and I bought it in 1986, back when he was 30 and I was 26, and everything still felt wide open. We raised 2 kids in that house. Jennifer first, then Michael 2 years later. I stayed home. That was the deal. Richard worked as an accountant. I ran the house, cooked, handled the kids, kept the holidays together. I never asked for a receipt, never asked where the money went. That was his side of things. For 40 years, I thought it worked fine. Richard was a quiet man. That's the first thing people said about him. Quiet, dependable, never raised his voice. People at church called him a gentleman. The neighbors told me I was lucky. I believed them. I thought the quiet meant he was gentle, that he didn't need to talk because his actions said enough. Turns out the quiet meant something else. It meant he was planning. Before I keep going, tell me where you're watching from. City and state. Drop it in the comments. I want to know who's sitting with me for this one. And subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell too. These stories don't always make it to your feed unless you tell YouTube you want them there. Takes 10 seconds. It started about 6 months before he locked me out. Small things you wouldn't catch unless you were looking for them. I wasn't looking. Why would I be? Richard started leaving the house every Thursday evening. Said it was a meeting about his pension. Something about the firm restructuring retirement accounts. I didn't question it. He'd always been careful with money. One of the things I loved about him. So every Thursday, he'd put on his good jacket, kiss my forehead, say back by 9. And I'd say, drive safe. That was it. Then the mail got strange. I'd check the box in the afternoon and find it empty, even when I knew bank statements were due. A few days later, I'd find those same statements on Richard's desk, already opened. When I asked, he'd wave his hand. Already handled, Dorothy. Don't worry about it. So I didn't. 3 months before he threw me out, my daughter Jennifer called on a Sunday. Her voice was wrong. Tight, like she'd been crying or trying hard not to. Mom, I need to tell you something. I need you to stay calm. I sat down. She said, Dad came to see me last week. He brought papers. He changed his will. Everything's in a trust now. He said it was for tax reasons. I laughed. Actually laughed. Jen, your father's always been careful with money. It's probably just estate planning. Don't work yourself up. She went quiet. The kind of quiet that sits in your chest. Then, Mom, I read the whole thing. You're not in the trust. You and Dad aren't even listed together. He's the sole trustee. If something happens to him, it all goes to Michael and me. You get nothing. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to Richard, listening to him breathe, trying to make the math work in my head. The next morning, he made me blueberry pancakes, my favorite. Sat them down with the butter still melting, kissed my cheek, said, "Morning, beautiful." And I thought, I'm being ridiculous. This is the man who held my hand through 2 C-sections. The man who sat with me when my mother died. The man who built me a bookshelf because I mentioned once I liked reading by the window. I was not being ridiculous. 2 months before the locks changed, Richard sat me down at the kitchen table. Saturday morning. Papers laid out neat, the way he did everything. Dot, I need your signature on some documents. Routine update to the mortgage. The bank needs both our names on the new terms. I trusted him. I signed. I didn't read every page. I should have read every page. What I actually signed was a quitclaim deed. I gave away my ownership of the house, the one I'd vacuumed and painted and decorated for 40 years. The one where I nursed his dying mother on the couch for 3 months. The one where Jennifer took her first steps and Michael said his first prayer. Gone, with my own signature on it, while I thought I was updating a mortgage. But the house isn't even the worst part. During those same months, while I was cooking dinner and trusting everything was fine, Richard was taking apart our finances piece by piece. Our joint savings had $53,000 in it. Money from tax refunds, Christmas bonuses, the sale of my mother's house after she died. He drained it to zero, not all at once. He was smarter than that. 2,000 here, 3,000 there, 1,100 on a Wednesday while I was at the dentist. Small enough that the balance just seemed to drift down, the way it does in November when the heating bill hits. He also opened a credit card in my name, used my social security number, my information, all of it. I never saw a statement because he was already pulling the mail before I got to it. By the time I found out, there was $14,000 on that card. A jewelry store in Atlanta. A furniture store in Sarasota. A down payment on something I still don't know what. It was Michael's wife, Claire, who caught it. She works at a bank branch in Cincinnati, and she noticed something off during a routine check. She told Michael. Michael called me on a Tuesday night, furious. Mom, Dad has a safety deposit box at First National. He's been putting things in it for months. Claire saw the access logs. That's when I confronted him. After dinner, I'd made pot roast his favorite. I sat across from him and said, Richard, what's going on with our money? Jennifer told me about the will. Michael told me about the box. Tell me the truth right now. He set his fork down, looked at me. I'll carry that look the rest of my life. No anger in it. No guilt. No love. Nothing. Like looking at a stranger on a bus. Dorothy, he said, you've never earned a dime in your life. This house, this money, it was always mine. I earned it. I managed it. You just lived in it. I couldn't speak. He picked his fork back up and finished the pot roast. Finished it while I sat there, and everything I thought I had came apart at that table. The day the locks changed, I'd driven to the Kroger on Henderson Road. Chicken, potatoes, green beans, a baguette. I was making Richard's favorite, chicken and rosemary potatoes, the way his mother used to make it. Even picked up a small chocolate cake, because the week had been hard and I wanted to do something nice. Pulled into the driveway at 5:45. The deadbolt wouldn't turn. Back door locked. Garage code changed. I stood on that porch 45 minutes. Knocked till my knuckles split open. Called his cell 11 times. Nothing. Screamed his name in the front yard, like a crazy person. Mrs. Patterson from next door came over and put her coat around my shoulders, because I was shaking. Dorothy, honey, call the police. Something's wrong. I called Jennifer instead. She drove over in her pickup 20 minutes flat. Got out, looked at the trash bag on the porch, didn't say one word. Just picked it up, put it in the back seat, held my arm while I got in the truck. We drove to her place in silence. $12 in my purse. One bag of clothes behind me. That night, on Jennifer's couch with her dog curled against my feet, I couldn't get a full breath. Not from crying, from a feeling I sat with for weeks afterward. That quiet voice asking how I could have been so stupid. How I signed those papers without reading them. How I never once looked at a bank statement in 40 years. How I trusted someone that long and got him that wrong. I'm not going to dress that feeling up. It sat on my chest for a long time. The next morning, Jennifer took me to see a woman named Sarah. 71, retired family law attorney. Somebody Jennifer knew from church. Small office above a hardware store downtown. White hair pulled back, reading glasses on a chain. She poured me tea and let me talk without interrupting once. Just writing on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she sat quiet a second. Then she looked up over her glasses and said 3 words. He made a mistake. She walked me through it slow. Dorothy, Richard moved the house into a trust within 18 months of when you'd likely file for divorce. In Ohio, that's called fraudulent conveyance. A court can reverse it. The money went to his brother's account in Florida. That's a paper trail. He opened credit in your name without your consent. That's identity theft. These aren't small things. These are crimes. She filed a police report that same afternoon. The credit card company froze the account within 2 days. A week later, Officer Reeves called and said, Mrs. Dawson, your husband's been busy. They traced every transfer, $53,000, moved over 6 months into his brother Gerald's account in Sarasota. Sarah pulled a subpoena for the bank records. They came back in 3 weeks, every date and amount laid out. The hearing was a Thursday morning in March. I wore a navy dress Jennifer bought me. My hands wouldn't stop shaking under the table. Richard sat across the room with the lawyer who looked barely out of school. He never once looked at me. Stared straight ahead the whole time, like I wasn't even in the room. Sarah laid it all out. Calm, one piece after another. The deed I signed thinking it was a mortgage form. The drained account. The credit card opened in my name. The transfers to Florida. She'd been doing this 40 years, and it showed. The judge was older, maybe late 60s. I watched something shift in his face while Sarah talked. His jaw tightened, his pen stopped moving. When she finished, he looked straight at Richard. You told your wife of 40 years she was signing a mortgage update, he said. She was signing away her home. You moved $53,000 out of a joint account and hid it under your brother's name. You opened credit in her name without her knowledge. I've sat in this courtroom a long time, sir. This disgusts me. He reversed the trust. The house came back to me. He ordered Richard to repay the $53,000 plus interest. Dismissed the credit card debt entirely. Made Richard cover my attorney's fees. 6 months after that Tuesday, I was sitting at my own kitchen table. Same kitchen where Richard served me pancakes while he was robbing me blind. I sold that table. Bought a smaller one. Just for me. Repainted the living room. Put roses in where his mother used to sit in the garden. Got a small dog. Named him Hank. Started going back to church. Richard's in a one-bedroom in Sarasota with his brother now. Michael still talks to him sometimes. Says Richard doesn't understand why everyone's still upset. Told Michael once, "I was just organizing things the way they should have been." That's what people like him do. They rewrite it so they come out the victim. So somehow it ends up being your fault. I'm 67 years old. I sleep in my own bed. I eat at my own table. Every single thing in this house is mine. Not because of money, but because of 40 years of showing up. 40 years of meals and laundry and held hands and forgiveness. I earned that. If you're a woman over 60 and your husband handles the money, check the accounts. Check the deed. Pull your credit report. 20 minutes. That's all it takes. And it could save you everything. If something feels off, trust it. Don't eat the pancakes and tell yourself it's fine. Next video, I'll tell you what my daughter-in-law tried to pull. Getting a doctor to say I wasn't fit to make my own decisions, so she could take over my money and my care. That one nearly broke me worse than Richard did. Subscribe. I'll see you Thursday.